Skynews has been tracking a gang which operates mainly from Eritrea to Libya. Despite some arrests, the leader and his second-in-command are still at large. This is a file created by detectives in Italy, 700 pages in total. They've detailed records on the 24 members of the gang, including dates of birth. And they've gathered information on how they work by using covert surveillance and tracking their phone calls. The gang's network of money transfer extends all over the world. You can see transactions in Germany, Switzerland, and even Saudi Arabia. So how do they actually make their money? Well, the smugglers can charge people up to $1,500 to get from Eritrea or Sudan to Libya. The journey across Libya to the port of Zawara often costs another $1,700. People who attempt to cross the desert independently are often kidnapped by the gang, who charge their families ransoms of up to $3,000 to take them to Tripoli. The crossing to Italy can be another $1,500 to $2,000. So it's a multi-million-dollar enterprise, but European detectives admit that because they mainly operate in Libya, prosecution is almost impossible. So, how do we solve the problem of people smuggling? Can it be done, or is it just a feature of the modern world? Joined from Bristol by Helen Kidan from the group, the Network of Eritrean Women. Hello to you, thanks for joining us on Sky News. And you speak really from first hand, don't you? I know you were very little when it happened to you, but I'm sure you still remember the emotions that you had back then.
I left in 1977 as a young child. I mainly grew up in the United Kingdom, but I was also in Libya for a spell, which I find quite sad to see the way that it is. So my experiences is not since independence. It was mainly, my experience was during the time for liberation for Eritrea.
I don't know why your family left, Helen, but why are people leaving now?
Basically, the main reasons that they are leaving is because the government has curtailed the freedoms of the people inside Eritrea. People have got no rights, no recourse to justice, and the young people are basically in military service, which is indefinite, which is basically it's a form of slavery. With no hope and with no justice, we are seeing the results of this today.
You must identify, not necessarily personally, but from those that you have spoken to, rather, about the people smugglers and how they behave and react to people.
Yes, and it is very sad and traumatic to hear people's stories. However, you know, to stop this happening, there needs to be real change inside Eritrea. Because as long as there is repression and people do not have their rights, people will continue leaving the country in droves, and that will provide, there will always be smugglers as long as there's a need.
Generally, it only tends to come to light when we see people struggling to survive. Their boats are perhaps overturned or whatever in the Mediterranean, and then they're taken to the Italian mainland or one of the islands there. The consideration then is what happens to them after that, and you feel the international community really does need to act now.
The international community needs to bring more pressure on the Eritrean government to respect human rights. There can be, you know, softer forms of sanctions which it targets culprits who commit human rights abuses, and there needs to be more help towards Eritrean people, both inside Eritrea and those who are mainly in neighboring countries such as Ethiopia, Sudan, Yemen, where most of the refugees are. The ones that are crossing into Europe are only a handful of those. So we need to get to the source of the problem and help those there, so that once they are helped, they won't be making the dangerous journeys which so many people are.
You represent the Network of Eritrean Women. What is the situation like in Eritrea for women now?
The situation for women in Eritrea is dire. Clearly there are no human rights for all citizens, but obviously the issue with women is even worse because of gender-based violence. And also the trauma of that does not end in Eritrea. A lot of the women who leave Eritrea are also subject to these gangs that you've talked about, and are raped and suffer all forms of torture at their hands as well. So women have a particular need, especially in the refugee camps where there is no hygiene of medicines or general sanitation for women during menstruation. So women are in more need because of these issues, and especially those that are in refugee camps and those in Sinai and elsewhere. They need desperate help. People in Eritrea and the neighbouring countries need help now.
How do people who want to flee Eritrea, how do they learn about these gangs? How do they get involved with them?
Some of these gangs, I believe, operate within Eritrea. I believe people within there say they'll take them to the Sudan. And, you know, between Sudan and Eritrea, there's the possibility of kidnapping as well on the border. So I think the first contacts that people make are that. But also people leave freely from Eritrea. So people leave, people cross over the border at their own risk. And a lot of people have been kidnapped from inside Sudan as well. So there are those that probably will have somebody that drives them, have a contact inside Eritrea, but in a lot of cases as well, a lot of people live of their own volition.
It's good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us on Sky News this afternoon, Helen. Helen Kidan from the Network of Eritrean Women, talking about people smuggling. You can see Alex Crawford's special report at 9 o'clock this evening. If you can't wait till then, of course, you can watch it online. Let's bring in